As I said in my overall review, Tapestry's Automa is a bit of a bear at first, but becomes second nature quickly and is totally worth checking out. So here is our review addendum covering the solo mode and two-player Shadow Empire variant for Tapestry. In either mode, automatic players are civless, capitalist proxies driven by a deck of special cards which are flipped 2 at a time and paired to form priorities for both the Automa and Shadow Empire. Basically, they will almost always move up a track determined by their overall priority, closing in on buildings, advancing on their furthest ahead track, or advancing on any track, then breaking ties based on a scale that changes with the cards. In the case of solo play, this will be used to control two automated players, the Automa and the Shadow Empire. The Automa mimics the experience of playing against a human player, as they will move up the tracks, take actions, acquire landmarks, play styles, and conquer, all based on the sets of priorities that flip up on the cards. The Shadow Empire, on the other hand, is just there to add additional pressure to the game, climbing tracks to consume landmarks, which are then claimed by the Automa player. When the Shadow Empire's cubes move into a space, it never performs any of the benefits and it scores no points. Probably the most monumental thing about the Automa is that when it in general runs out of cards, it takes income turns, at which time it'll score progressively more points based on how far it's gone up the tracks, as well as the number of landmarks it's claimed, placed to the side of the Automa board. There are also a whole host of effects that trigger during their income turns based on the difficulty level that you're playing against, including adding new cards to their deck, which will then get shuffled and play through again, meaning that just like you, during later eras, it'll take more and more turns. And the biggest impact this will have on you? Nothing! Your game is played exactly the same, which is fantastic. Just like the wonderful Automa and Wingspan, the Automa simulates the experience of playing against a real opponent without having to fully manage that. Yes, there is overhead here with if-then style priority decisions, adding pieces to the board and whatnot, but once you get used to the symbology, it becomes extremely easy to take their turn by flipping the cards, going up 2 tracks, resolving the new action for the Automa only, then carrying on. And there's a good amount of variance in case you get bored. The Automa board itself has a printed default income turn sequence, but there are additional cards to make the game easier or even significantly harder in case you are the type who enjoys saying, "Thank you, sir, may I please have another?" Additionally, the Automa and the Shadow will have a random favored track that will emphasize those tracks during play and can even shift during income turns. And finally, the Automa has their own civ. Yeah, I know I said they don't have civs, but I'm kind of a liar and tricky like that. Instead of your glorious and beautiful civ, the Automa has just a kind of boring looking card, which will give it a sort of bonus that corresponds to each of the 4 tracks, and is tied to the initial favored track determined by a roll of the green die. Again, I really like how Automa is handled here, but I'm not going to lie, the first time I played, I was constantly having to refresh myself about how the Automa worked. It was a lot to wrap my brain around the sort of player and a half setup. The second time, their turns would fly by and I hardly had to reference the rulebook at all, and it became a fantastic platform to test out each civ and its capabilities, and in some ways you could argue it's even more balanced than the multiplayer game because you're playing against an unbiased system rather than the unpredictability that can come from a multiplayer game with various mixes of civs and Tapestry cards. Speaking of, if there's one thing I don't like about it, it's that there's a bunch of civs and Tapestry cards that need to be removed when playing because either they don't function partially or entirely in this mode. I mean, sure, it's kind of like first world problems to be like, I have to sort through and remove 15 pieces of paper, but still, it is a bit of a pain. But if that's the only real bit of inelegance, it is a small price to pay. I'm a big fan of this solo mode, and I think it's among the best that Stonemaier and Automa Factory have designed to date. Oh, right. I don't want to leave you without this. Shadow Empire for multiplayer. It's fine. All it is a way of pushing up a cube to take away landmarks and possibly remove the first to complete a track endgame reward. You just use the cards from the Automa to flip their turn, move up, discarding the landmarks that it manages to obtain first, and then move on. It has no other gameplay effect and it scores no points. Like my cat Tiberius, it cares not for victory, just seeing the world burn. I mean, I guess if you want to add pressure to your 2-player games, it works perfectly well, but personally, it's not worth the hassle, and 2-player without it is one of my favorite ways to play Tapestry. So that is our review addendum. Thanks for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.